So we have Lena Suarez-Angelino with us today, and she is just an awesome lady, and she's here to talk to us about strategies and her SOS strategy. Lena, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate Jamie so much for inviting me to be one of the mental health and mind experts in our strategies. So this is I something that is near and dear to my heart. Living with ADHD, I was a late diagnosed. I think like many of of the adults in our world, it's not until either a child's being diagnosed that we start to look into things, or I just finally called, a psychiatrist and was like, I talking about symptoms, and here we are. And so it's just really an honor, being able to bring my expertise as a burnout coach and, consultant, mental health therapist, as well as raising a child with special needs. It really helps to like mend, and, it's just something really, really near and dear to my heart. So I'm really excited, and we're keeping this short, we're keeping it simple. And that's what we really need as ADHDers, right? As somebody who's living with ADHD, or maybe it's your child who has ADHD, it is so, so, so important to keep things simple, to keep things, so that we're not overwhelmed, right? I think a lot of us there's all different types of ADHD that we'll talk about and learn about in this membership. And, there's things that will work, things that might not work for you, but might work for your child. Or it's just being able to keep it simple, because then we get overwhelmed, right? We get overwhelmed, or and then we don't start, or we don't maintain it, right? So we want to be able to find strategies, find tools, and that's where the birthplace of SOS Please, or SOS strategies, SOS redefined. I've named it a couple things, right? In true ADHD fashion. That's what really has worked for me, and I hope that it works for you too. So, not, talking more about myself, I really kind of getting into it. My brain works in acronyms too. So my company is Light Collective and Co. Light is that reminder to let it go here today. And then SOS, we have that breakdown. So S is simplify, optimize, and support. And so we have the three-step system, and it's really just that. We want to think about the things that we need to simplify in our lives. I think if you've ever watched anything that Jamie and I have done together in the past, I talk a lot about zooming in and zooming out. We get so zoomed in our lives. So whether it's household responsibilities, if it's business related, if it's, dealing with our kids, whatever the case may be, we get so zoomed in. So we feel like everywhere that we're looking, it's another fire to have to be put out. And, we're pulled in multiple directions. Cue the overwhelm again, right? And so we have to just be able to pause and zoom out for a moment and say, okay, what is the big picture here? Why did I start my business in the first place? Or, are all of these play dates or all of these obligations, really a necessity? Or are all of the chores, do they have to be done tonight? Like, no, right? And so when you're able to zoom out, you're able to just take a breather, um, and really think about like, okay, how can I simplify this? And maybe it's not simplifying it, you want to try and simplify in the moment, but even in my practice, I've looked at my schedule and said, wow, I'm really tired right now, I'm feeling really burnt out. Where in my schedule can I simplify things a little bit? Do I need to reduce my nighttime, availability? Do I need to maybe give myself block an entire day off, but that means I have longer days? That's where I'm at right now, is, just because of where our lifestyle is, and that's again what works. And so I'm able to kind of simplify, able to see what is working, and thinking about it in seasons, right? So thinking about it in ways that you're not only worried about, like, you can pause, right? You can pause and you can say, this can pass, or what can I take control over in this moment? Right? If it's the bedtime routine, maybe we do skip bath time right now just because it was a long day, and we just don't have the spoons. We don't have the availability to be able to do that. And so, where can we simplify? Maybe that's the time when we order pizza, right? Or maybe that's the time when we, whatever and it's not necessarily taking the easy way out. It's just, you just couldn't add more to your plate. And so then we simplify, right? And so we can simplify on that short term, on that middle term almost, right? In those next 3 months, how can I start making some changes? But where are we headed, so that we know what are the stepping stones, that we can go on. And there's going to be multiple paths, right? We have our business path. We have our path as a parent. We have our path for that our children are on. We have our own personal, journeys and growth paths that we're on. And so, we can be on multiple paths at all times. And that's where that overwhelm comes in, because we feel like we have to tend to each path right in that same moment, and we can't. And so really figuring out, okay, maybe I'm not making advancements on this piece right now, but maybe these other two have a little bit more growth that's happening, in the near future. The second step, so again, it's simplify and then optimize. And so optimize, I always love to use the story of by the time it was like 7 a.m., I was already ran up and down the stairs probably 10 times, and I'm truly not exaggerating, because in again true ADHD fashion, I'm forgetting the watch on the charger, I'm forgetting my phone, I'm forgetting my glasses. So I'm running up and down, let alone grabbing clothes for my son. And so it was like by the 7 a.m. I was already exhausted, already overwhelmed, because and like sweaty again because I was doing cardio, an involuntary cardio, running up and down the stairs because I tend to get him ready in our living room. And so I was like, hold on. Again, that pause is going to happen, right? And I always say, even in therapy, I'm like, okay, therapy 101, pause, take a deep breath, right? Like, let's just take a moment. And so when I took that moment, when I looked at like, how can I simplify? How can I optimize? I'm like, okay, so now I make sure I look around and I gather all of the things that I need from my room before going into my son's room. At the time, he was still upstairs. So, and other people, maybe it is setting the things out the night before, but because of how long my days are, that just doesn't work right now in this moment. It might 3 months from now, I might see, a big change in that, and that might be a strategy that I try. But it was being able to, what am I taking a look at, what am I already doing, and how can I do it differently? Or, if you're in business, do I have people that I can ask for help and delegate to, right? Are there things that I can maybe do in a different way? Can I automate some things so that, we talk about marketing strategy, or we talk about, um, scheduling our social media posts. And so how can we optimize our time, right? Because our time is always so limited. And with ADHD, there's a lot of time blindness too. So we don't always know. It just really helps to say, like, how can I make this better, right? It's working. He was still getting ready on time, and but my stress levels just weren't worth it, right? In the morning, I just, again, that's not how you want to start your morning, because I already felt like I did not only steps literally by climbing up and down them, and, all the cardio, but I was already so mentally fatigued, and it wasn't even 7. It wasn't even 7:30. And so then I had a full day of clients, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to keep going?" Right? And so that was kind of that cue and that trigger of like, where can I optimize, right? So whether that's hiring additional support if you have the resources, whether it's designating and time blocking certain chunks of time throughout your day, or maybe certain days are assigned as your admin days. Um, or maybe your kids want to do recreational activities after school, and it's like, okay, you have to look at what you have capacity for. Maybe I only want to do recreational stuff on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I like having those long weekends, sort of like Mondays and Fridays when we have holidays, or when, it just helps us regroup the family back together a little bit more, right? And so that's where I feel that the Wednesdays are best for me. You're good.
I that is so important to bring up right there, is the optimization, because, we will often come into those moments of like, there is just too much on my plate, right? And we get to just take that step back, like you're saying, and take those breathers and give ourselves grace. And then we get to come in and say, okay, what are my most vital responsibilities here? Where it's like, this is a dependent responsibility. This is someone that depends on me, or an animal, or anything, right? That depends on me. And look at those first, and then come and look at the other things, to help us to really strategize and really just feel like, where is my peace coming from? Like, I need to make sure that I have self-care here, and that there's a good little main balance when it comes to, what the family dynamic looks like, what our home dynamic looks like. And then, because that trickles down, it
Yeah.
trickles into our children, and when we have that, and when we really maintain that, then we're able to really bring forth, more care. So, I mean, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah,
No, not at all. Please do.
SOS strategies are incredible.
And again, like they're so simple. Again, they're easy to remember. One, because it's 3 letters, and because my brain works in mnemonics, but or acronyms and stuff, it just helps to like, okay, like simplify, optimize, support. And it reminds me of my non-negotiables. Everything feels like a non-negotiable. Everything feels like, but if we are able to really take a step back, it's like, hold on, what will affect, the entire week? What will affect the next 3 months? What will affect, a year from now? And so a lot of the times the things that we're worried about and so zoomed in aren't going to be the things that are affecting us long term. And so it optimization, right? It's like you have to figure out like what works as a family unit as well. What works, for everybody's schedule. Maybe the other partner, if there is another supportive partner in the house, being a bed I always use that example of like bedtime might look different than how you would do it, but is it done, right? Are the kids getting to sleep okay and on time, for the most part? Are they And so being able to let go of some of that control and let go of some of those expectations, which we'll talk about in the future as well, I'm sure we can talk about so many things. And then also asking for help, right? I think there's the difference of like asking for help and then also accepting the help, right? And being able to I always say like not knee jerk ourselves and say, no, I got it. No, it's okay. Like, thanks. And so again, those are all topics that we will we will cover in the future. But it leads into that support, right? Who is that support system for you? Who's in the house that can support you? Who are some friends that you have online in community? Is it community members? I'm so blessed to have found a therapist that only understands the aspects of caregiving for a special needs child, but then also the business stressors as an entrepreneur. And so really being able to talk to him and say like, I'm stressed and overwhelmed, and I honestly sometimes feel like I want to burn it all down because like maybe that means I get more help for my kid because in our state everything's income based, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, my income's pretty slim, so I don't know how much little you want us to have in order to get support. Or it's like, we're battling like respite. Oh, it always feels like by the state is like dangled with a carrot. So it's like, we'll only help you, but only so much, or only so far, or only with these few bullet points of support and assistance. And you're just looking at them like, okay, but you're not hearing the family's needs. You're not meeting our child and saying, oh, okay, we had a Hoyer lift, which is a mechanism that helps lift bodies, and to transport them throughout the house. It doesn't fit in our bathroom where we needed it. So it's like no one's coming to our house to see the needs of our family. And you're just like, this is not support.